episode of Das Ranting. I probably sound horrible. I'm not in the best condition to be recording, but, screw it. I may be coughing and sniffling a lot. I've got bad allergies today. I was gonna wait until after maybe my Claritin kicked in better, but it's not going as fast as usual, so let's just plow ahead. I owe this to you anyway. Latest episode of Supernatural, I saw a trailer for Saw 3D. They're saying it's the last one. Yeah. Right, they said Saw 6 would be the last one, I think. How many is this now? So that reminded me of the Halloween rant I wanted to do. I wanted to do two, but I really want to focus on this one. Because every Halloween I always talk about slashers, because they're like one of my favorite genres of film. And a while back I wrote an essay on what I called the 7 deadly slashers, the ones I consider the biggest and the best and like the true slashers of the genre. And those slashers were in order of release when they first debuted: the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in '74, Halloween in '78, Friday the 13th in '80, Nightmare on Elm Street in '84, Hellraiser in '86, Child's Play in '87, I believe, and Scream in, damn it, I can't remember the year for Scream. Okay, I think it's in the 90s. So, those are what I classify as a big 7, and of course, their illegitimate brother that nobody talks about, I Know What You Did Last Summer, but that's the reason why that one's illegitimate is for another time. But when I posted that essay, I got a lot of people saying I forgot to include Saw. And for the longest time I realized, that I didn't feel comfortable including Saw in that. And I think I've managed to formulate why I don't classify Saw as a true slasher. I'm going to explain why. Now, first you have to define what is the true slasher. Well, think about the 7 I listed, okay? Think about the 7 I listed. They are all cheesy. The first one was usually released in theaters, but the sequels weren't. Hardly any of the sequels were. They get cheaper and cheaper as they go along. And mostly think about how the deaths look. They don't look real. They're ridiculously over-the-top gory, or as inventive as possible. With not including Freddy Krueger or Pinhead, because they kind of cheat, as it were. Think about how creative Jason Voorhees gets. He's probably the most creative slasher out there, because he doesn't have dreams and nightmares or hell on his side. He's just a single guy. He has, with the exception of his machete, he rarely kills people the same way twice, and he always makes use of anything he can grab in his surroundings. So, on that note, it's over-the-top deaths, sometimes creating hilarity, such as the famous Jason Voorhees sleeping bag death. That one cracks me up. He kills a woman with a party favor. They're silly. And more importantly, they're almost a Mean Girl Snacky's Law revenge. Because all the people who die in slashers are jerks, or the idiot jocks. The people in high school you hated, basically, are the ones who are all dying in slashers. The people who survive are the nice people who are studious, or more importantly, virginal. You have to be a virgin in a slasher or you're going to die. So, mainly, slashers are a weird, twisted sense of self-gratification. Watching a killer you root for kill people you hate. Okay? That's the whole point of it. More importantly, they have an iconic villain who is always there, who you're always running from, who you recognize with, like, the Freddy Krueger glove, Jason Voorhees' masks, Michael Myers' mask, the chainsaw. They always have something very recognizable. And on the surface, it seems like Saw belongs in there. Saw has that recognizable dummy. It's got a lot of movies in the franchise. It's got really inventive deaths. But the reason I do not classify Saw as a true slasher is because every single Saw film has been released in theaters, for one. And now that they're in 3D, it's obvious their budgets keep getting bigger, which is the exact opposite of what slashers typically do. Also, this is going to sound really crazy, but Saw fails to make me suspend my disbelief. Now, before you suspend your disbelief for Jason Voorhees, before you say anything, yes, I do. Because they make it clear. Freddy Krueger, how does he do what he goes? He's magic. That's how he does it. Jason Voorhees, he's magic. Pinhead, he's magic. I suspend my disbelief for those slashers because they're deliberately bad movies, and they always, almost always with the exception of, I think, Leatherface and the Scream guys, they hand wave every single slasher by saying they're magic. So I'm like, okay, fine. It's a bad movie. And that's where the suspension of disbelief comes in for me, because I know it's a bad movie, and I'm not expecting high art. Now, to say I'm expecting high art with Saw, I'm not, okay? But they're higher quality, and I cannot suspend my disbelief for the iconic slasher they've chosen for Saw. I can't. As mastermindy as he is, he gets his minions, I cannot buy Jigsaw, because he's a cancer-riddled old man. And for the first one, he wasn't even working with anyone. How is he setting this up? How is he doing this? And then, of course, he dies in, like, the fourth one, doesn't he? I've watched clips from them, and I know I've read basic plot synopses, but I cannot buy it. I can't buy that villain. Okay? So my suspension of disbelief is shot. Therefore, I'm just saying, how did he set this up? With Jason Voorhees appearing way ahead of people when he was clearly behind them, I'm like, he's magic, he can do that. But with the Jigsaw guy, I'm sitting here just wondering, how did you set that up? And how many rotten old basements in the world are you managing to find? It's just one of those things. How are you finding all this equipment? Where do you store all this? I just find myself asking that, because the more elaborate the torture contraptions get, the more I'm asking, how the hell are you doing this? And why has nobody caught you yet? It's just, that's the problem with the Saw film. And also, of course, then there's the major problem with Saw. And why I can't put it up with the other 7. With the exception of, I think, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That one genuinely creeped me out. None of the slashers have really freaked me out. The deaths are always over the top, or they're fakey. They don't make me feel uncomfortable because it's just, oh look, you can tell that's fake, or haha, that's over the top and ridiculous, and I know it's not real. With the Saw films, not only do they try to make them look as real as possible to really push my empathy pains, but I know for a fact that some of those are real. Not, they're not really killing people on camera, but I mean, the contraptions they use, these people admitted to going to historical sites or museums and looking up Spanish Inquisition torture devices, all kinds of medieval, basically genuine torture devices, and then saying we could use this in our movie. So some of the deaths they're doing on screen have really happened, or were based on stuff that really happened, and that makes me uncomfortable, because that's not voyeuristic. I'm watching, some giant killer beat the stuffing out of some guy who was mean to me in high school. That's not what this is. This is watching, it's not the same voyeuristic self-gratification. So, I cannot get behind Saw as a slasher for those main reasons. One, their villain is not believable. Two, their deaths are not believable. They're not laughable. They make me feel uncomfortable. It's kind of, I'm not gonna say it's exactly like Hostel, because I don't like that film either. It's, it doesn't work as one of the big seven slashers. I cannot classify it with those seven slashers because it's too big budget, and they try to make everything far too real. That's not the point of a slasher. I go into a slasher expecting to laugh. I don't go into a slasher cringing and going, "My God, what's wrong with you?" So my suspension of disbelief is shot, and I spend too much time wondering, was that one of the torture devices they really used? Because I'm really uncomfortable watching this. That's all it is. That's so. To anyone who told me I needed to include Saw in my slasher list, that's why I didn't. And I figured this is just a good Halloween rant for you. I'm gonna try and do a second one before Halloween shows up, but no guarantees on it. I'm trying to get my thoughts together on it, but even with notes, I go off on tangents on this one. So it may be a two-parter if I decide to do this one also for Halloween. If not, this is your Halloween rant. Thanks for listening. I'll see you guys in the next episode.